This might be the episode where From finally stops feeling like a mystery box and starts feeling like a curse with rules, because episode 5 does not just give us creepy images and strange visions, it gives us structure. A lake that may not be what everyone hoped, scarecrows buried beneath the water like somebody wanted them hidden forever, Jade reliving deaths that may have happened to him over and over again across different lives, and a horrifying possibility that the town survives by feeding on fear while forcing the same tragedy to repeat across generations. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Breakdown Epic. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Now, in my opinion, this was one of the most important episodes of the season so far, because it did something From is usually very careful about doing. It connected several mysteries at once. Not fully, not cleanly, because of course this show still enjoys watching us suffer, but enough to make the shape of the larger curse feel much clearer. The scarecrows, the crows, the children, Jade's visions, Tabitha's memory flashes, Sophia's touch, the sacrificial pit, all of it now feels like it belongs to one much older and much darker system.
I want to start with the lake, because that storyline may be the most deceptive part of the episode. Ethan still believes this place could be the Lake of Tears, the legendary site tied to healing and maybe even resurrection. That idea alone is heartbreaking, because it comes from a child still trying to hold on to hope. Those giant scarecrow-like dolls buried underneath the water changes the entire tone of the episode. That is not random horror dressing. Someone put those things there, deliberately. And if someone went through the trouble of sinking them beneath the lake, that means they were either trying to trap something, hide something, or keep something from coming back. And personally, I think that last possibility is the most disturbing. Tabitha's memory of the man throwing the dolls into the lake because they gave him nightmares feels incredibly important, because it suggests the scare.
I want to start with the lake, because that storyline may be the most deceptive part of the episode. Ethan still believes this place could be the Lake of Tears, the legendary site tied to healing and maybe even resurrection. That idea alone is heartbreaking, because it comes from a child still trying to hold on to hope in a world that keeps punishing it. So when they test the water on the injured bird and nothing happens, the episode immediately undercuts that hope, at least on the surface. But what matters is not that the lake failed to heal anything. What matters is what it was hiding. Pulling that rope and uncovering those giant scarecrow-like dolls buried beneath the water changes the entire tone of the episode. That is not random horror dressing. Someone put those things there, deliberately. And if someone went through the trouble of sinking them beneath the lake, that means they were either trying to trap something, hide something, or keep something from coming back. And personally, I think that last possibility is the most disturbing. Tabitha's memory of the man throwing the dolls into the lake because they gave him nightmares feels incredibly important, because it suggests the scarecrows are not just objects.
They absorb something: fear, pain, memory, maybe even dreams themselves. And if they are containers for emotional or supernatural corruption, then sinking them was not disposal, it was containment. That fits this show perfectly. From has always treated fear like fuel. Fear changes behavior. Fear isolates people. Fear breaks trust. So if the lake was used to bury fear itself in physical form, then we may be looking at one of the earliest defenses anyone ever created against the curse. Now, this also ties into the crow imagery in a really fascinating way. Scarecrows exist to keep crows away. Crows in this show often appear around arrival. They absorb something: fear, pain, memory, maybe even dreams themselves. And if they are containers for emotional or supernatural corruption, then sinking them was not disposal, it was containment. That fits this show perfectly. From has always treated fear like fuel. Fear changes behavior. Fear isolates people. Fear breaks trust. So if the lake was used to bury fear itself in physical form, then we may be looking at one of the earliest defenses anyone ever created against the curse. Now, this also ties into the crow imagery in a really fascinating way. Scarecrows exist to keep crows away. Crows in this show often appear around arrivals, warnings, or major shifts in the cycle. So what if the crows were never purely sinister? What if they were warning signs, messengers, a signal that something in the system is moving again? Even the cave paintings showing both black and white birds suggest that not every supernatural force in this town operates on the same side. And that opens the door to one of the episode's strongest implications. Different cycles may not only bring back different versions of the townspeople,
They may bring different monsters too. That is a massive theory, and honestly, I think the episode wants us to start thinking that way. The monsters we know now look like they belong to the mid-1900s. They dress from that era, they reflect a specific cycle. But what if in earlier loops, the main threat was not them? What if the scarecrows were once the dominant nightmare? That would mean the curse evolves. It adapts. It changes shape the same way the people inside it keep returning in new forms. That possibility is terrifying because it means nobody in town actually understands the full history of what has happened here. They only know the version of the curse they inherited. Now let's move to Jade, because this episode pushes him closer to the center of the mythology than ever before. The mushrooms do not just make him hallucinate randomly, they seem to peel back layers. He sees dead figures from multiple eras. He sees younger versions of himself. He sees the one-eyed colonial figure again. And the most important thing connecting all of them is this: they were not killed by monsters.
they were killed by the townspeople. That changes everything. Because for years, the easiest assumption has been that the monsters are the main executioners of the cycle. But Jade's visions suggest something much uglier. That once the town reaches a certain point, once paranoia spreads, once fear becomes total, the people turn on him. They blame him. They kill him. Which means the massacre may not just be a supernatural event. It may be a social one. A collapse of trust so complete that the humans finish the job themselves. That is exactly the kind of cruelty this town would be built around. And Jade, realizing that this has happened to him multiple times, is what makes his line about stopping it this time so powerful. He is no longer just solving clues. He is trying to break a pattern that has ended with his death over and over again. Now, the blue shirt boy becomes much more important here too. I do think there is a strong chance this child is one of Jade's earlier forms, or at least a symbolic projection of his original self. The promo keeps tying that figure directly to Jade, and the emotional tone of those scenes feels far too personal to be random.
If that child is leading him toward the truth, then Jade is not just uncovering town history, he is confronting himself across time. And honestly, that is where this episode gets really powerful. Because Jade has always been the character trying to outsmart the mystery. But this mystery might not be intellectual at all. It might be emotional. It might require him to remember what he lost, not just what happened. Then we get the underground chamber, and wow, this may be the biggest reveal in the episode. A pit filled with the remains of children turns the whole mythology on its head. If the original townspeople sacrificed children in exchange for immortality, then everything starts making much more sense. The curse, the cycles, the monsters, the endless repetition. This was not a random haunting. This was a bargain. And like every bargain in stories like this, it went wrong in the worst possible way. In my opinion, this is the darkest and most important idea the show has introduced yet, because it reframes Fromville as the aftermath of a ritual crime that never ended. The people who made the deal may be gone, but the deal itself is still alive. That is why the theory about the children's bones being taken to the true Lake of Tears is so compelling.
If the sacrificed children are the emotional and spiritual center of the curse, then resurrecting or freeing them could be the only thing that actually breaks it. But of course, that solution would require going into the tunnels, retrieving the remains, and surviving the monsters long enough to complete whatever ritual is needed. In other words, basically a Tuesday in Fromville. Now, let's talk about Sophia, because this episode quietly makes her even scarier. Her ability to trigger trauma through touch suggests she is not just manipulative socially. She can access or awaken buried psychic material inside other people. Marielle's reaction proves that. She gets flooded with horrific sensations and memories, as if Sophia is opening doors in her mind that should have stayed closed. And that ties directly into the idea that the town's evil feeds on suffering, not just death. That is a crucial distinction. This place does not just want bodies. It wants despair. It wants division. It wants people broken from the inside. And Sophia clearly enjoys watching that happen, which is exactly why the connection to the man in yellow feels stronger than ever. Whether she is directly controlled by him, an extension of him, or simply aligned with the same force, the result is the same. She pushes people toward fear and distrust, and if fear is the engine of the cycle, then Sophia is pouring fuel on it every time she touches someone.
That is why the episode feels so close to endgame now. By the end, Jade believes he has found the key. Tabitha is remembering more. The scarecrows suggest past cycles already tried to fight back. The children's sacrifice reveals the likely origin of the curse. And the trailer hints that next, the characters may have to return to the tunnels and confront the source directly. But the real danger is this. Every major revelation in this episode also brings the town one closer step to doing what it always does best, turning fear into collapse. So, my biggest takeaway is this. The curse survives by making people repeat the same emotional failures every cycle. The monsters may only be one piece of the system, and Jade and Tabitha are now closer than ever to understanding it, which means the town is probably about to come for them harder than ever before. But anyway, that is my breakdown of From Season 4, Episode 5, and why I think this episode may have finally revealed the core truth behind the curse. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think the scarecrows were buried to trap something evil, or were they actually protecting the town from something even worse? I will catch you in the next one.